Welfare or influence when the executive gives the judiciary luxury homes. Ladies and gentlemen, thinkers, truth seekers, and defenders of democracy, tonight's debate dives into one of the most explosive questions shaking Nigeria's political space. Recently, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, led by Nyesom Wike, inspected luxury duplexes built for judges in Abuja, a project reportedly involving 40 high-end houses for members of the judiciary. The government says the project is about welfare, security, and strengthening the judiciary. But critics, including activists Omoyere Sowore, argue something deeper is at stake. They ask a disturbing question. If the executive arm builds luxury homes for judges, can those same judges freely deliver judgments against the executive? Or does generosity quietly blur the lines between welfare and influence? Because democracy stands on three pillars: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. According to the doctrine of separation of powers, three arms must operate independently to ensure accountability and protect the rule of law. But when one arm of government begins to finance the comfort of another, the debate becomes unavoidable. Is this support for justice or subtle control of justice? Supporters say providing decent accommodation protects judges from intimidation and improves their working conditions. Critics warns the moment judges start living in mansions built by politicians, public trust in the courts begin to crumble. Without public trust, justice itself becomes fragile. So tonight we ask the big question: can the judiciary remain truly independent when the executive provides luxury benefits to those who might judge it? Nigeria, is this judicial welfare or executive influence in disguise? Let the debate begin. Dear viewers, I support the motion that when the executive builds luxury houses for judges, judicial independence is compromised. Democracy survives on one sacred principle: justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. The moment citizens begin to suspect that judges are financially dependent on politicians, the credibility of the entire justice system begins to collapse. Recently in Nigeria, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, led by Nyesom Wike, began constructing 40 residential houses for judicial officers in Abuja, including 20 for the FCT High Court, 10 for the Federal High Court, and 10 for the Court of Appeal. While supporters call it judicial welfare, we must ask a deeper constitutional question: should the executive arm of government provide luxury benefits to the judiciary, the same judiciary that must judge the executive? 1. Separation of powers is the foundation of democracy. Political philosopher Martin Square introduced the doctrine of separation of powers to prevent tyranny. Modern democracies divide government into three branches: the executive who implements the law, the legislature who make the law, and the judiciary who interpret the law. The purpose is clear: each arm must check the other to prevent abuse of power. When the executive begins to financially reward the judiciary, the independence required for those checks becomes questionable. 2. Judicial interdependence requires financial autonomy. Judicial independence is not just about freedom from threats, it also requires freedom from financial influence. For example, in Canada, Beauregard versus Canada 1986, the Supreme Court ruled that judicial independence includes financial security and institutional independence. The logic is simple: if judges depend financially on the executive, their independence may be compromised. 3. History shows executive influence can corrupt justice. History provides painful lessons. Example: military Nigeria. During military regimes in Nigeria 1960s to 1999, many judges were accused of delivering politically favorable judgments because the executive controlled appointments and benefits. Public trust in courts collapsed. Example in the UK, Riverside versus Anderson 1941. In that case, courts allowed executive detention powers during wartime. Later, legal scholars describe it as an example of excessive judicial deference to the executive. When judges become too close to the executive, justice becomes weak. 4. Perception of bias is enough to damage democracy. Even if judges remain honest, public perception matters. Imagine a scenario: a politician builds a luxury mansion for a judge. Later, a case involving that politician reaches the judge's court. Even if the judge rules fairly, citizens will ask, can justice truly be impartial? Justice must not only be fair, it must appear fair. 5. Global best practice. Judicial welfare is handled independently in advanced democracies. In United States, judicial salaries and benefits are determined by the Congress, not given personally by executive politicians. House of Commons research briefings. In United Kingdom, the Constitutional Reforms Act 2005 removed executive influence over judicial functions to strengthen independence. The trend worldwide is less executive control, not more. 6. Nigeria's constitution emphasizes judicial independence. The 1999 Constitution of Nigeria states that courts have the power to interpret laws and reviews executive actions. This makes the judiciary the last line of defense against abuse of power. If the executive becomes the provider of luxury benefits, that line of defense weakens. 7. Public trust is already fragile. According to the several Nigerian civil surveys, public trust in the judiciary is declining, especially after controversial election rulings. Actions that create the appearance of political closeness worsen that trust crisis. In conclusion, democracy is fragile. The judiciary must remain independent, neutral, and financially insulated from political influence. When the executive builds luxury homes for judges, it creates suspicion, perceived bias, and potential influence. Therefore, the executive gifts to the judiciary threatening the independence of justice. Thank you. Good day, viewers. The argument that building houses for judges automatically compromises justice is not only exaggerated, it misunderstands how democratic governance works. Providing welfare for judges is not corruption, it is good governance. 1. Judicial welfare strengthens independence. Judges must be protected from intimidation, bribery, corruption. One major cause of corruption in public institutions is poor welfare. Providing decent houses ensures judges are less vulnerable to bribery and external pressure. 2. Governments around the world provide facilities for judges. This is not unique to Nigeria. Across democracies, governments build court buildings, provide official residencies, provide security protection. Even in the United States, the executive branch manages many courthouse facilities used by federal courts. This does not mean judges are controlled by the president. 3. Housing projects are institutional, not personal gifts. The key differences ignore is this. These houses are government property, not personal gift. The project was approved by the Federal Executive Council as part of the government infrastructure development. Judges are simply occupants because of their office. When they retire, the houses remain government property. 4. Judges already depend on government for salaries. If welfare automatically compromises independence, then salaries, pensions, securities, vehicles will also compromise judges. Yet these benefits exist worldwide. What protects independence is legal safeguards, not poverty. 5. Nigerian judiciary faces serious welfare challenges. Many Nigerian judges face security threats, poor accommodation, infrastructure challenges. Providing housing improves safety, efficiency, dignity of the office. A judge who lives in poor condition may actually be more vulnerable to corruption. 6. The real safeguard is the Constitution. Nigeria's Constitution protects judicial independence through secure tenure of judges. Disciplinary processes via the National Judicial Council (NJC), separation of powers. These safeguards ensure that no politician can simply control court decisions. 7. Evidence shows judges often rule against government. Despite welfare benefits, courts worldwide frequently rule against the executive. Examples include election petitions, judicial review cases, constitutional rulings. This shows that welfare does not automatically equal influence. In conclusion, providing housing for judges is not bribery. It is a legitimate responsibility of government to ensure the judiciary has the resources to function effectively. Strong institutions are built through support, not neglect. Therefore, the claim that executive welfare automatically compromises judicial independence is unfounded and misleading. Thank you.